Welcome to chapter 14 of your 2024 story. My name's Michelle, owner of Movara Fitness Resort. And this week is a topic, actually, this whole entire month, we are going to be talking and addressing physical activity. And this is a topic that I could talk about for hours. I won't. I'm going to keep it short, and I want to try and help give you some inspiration and motivation to create a sustainable exercise routine into your lifestyle. I've always not loved the phrase of making exercise a lifestyle. I don't know why. I think it's just cliche, but truly that's what it is about, is making exercise part of your lifestyle, making activity part of your lifestyle. I do believe, much like nutrition, that because of the industry, oftentimes we self sabotage and don't exercise because of the industry, because exercise has been made to look and created to lose weight. And a lot of people try exercising, they get frustrated, they don't lose weight, so they quit. And it's an unhealthy relationship with exercise, and the fact that sometimes it's just hard and it's easier to not move. Although in the long run, it's not easier to not move because then we don't feel good. So it's one of those things that really, anything that's really good for us usually is hard. And that's really what exercise is. It's very, very good for us. And so the natural man wants to fight it, it wants to not do it. So it's also anytime, like nutrition, we're told we have to do something, we usually don't want to do it. And that's a little bit like exercise. We know it's good for us. It's hard to argue. I don't think anybody would not think that exercise is good for us. I know there's some opinions and things of it certainly can become extreme and unhealthy if we have an obsessive relationship with exercise. But ultimately, it's hard to argue the fact. I mean, there's study after study after study that shows the benefits of exercise. A lot of the major diseases, heart disease, diabetes, even cancer, has proven facts that exercise can help improve those. So, again, it's hard to argue. I also want to bring up the fact that emotional, mental diseases and struggles are becoming more and more prevalent, and exercise is, in my opinion, one of the most effective, cheapest, readily available medicines out there that we simply don't take advantage of. Often, every morning I'm out moving and I look around and I'm like, I am the only person out here. Where is everybody? Now, I know there's a lot of other options for exercise, but oftentimes I am very shocked at how few people take advantage of such an amazing tool. And it's something that's been a part of my life, gosh, forever. I mean, I think my first exposure was like eighth grade, maybe even sooner. And, it was interesting. I grew up watching my mom be very active, and, it was back in the Jane Fonda days, and exercising on her trampoline and doing I don't know if anybody remembers, but the television show where they used to have three platforms of instructors. One was the main instructor, and then there would be more of a beginning option on another platform, and then an advanced option on another platform. And so my mom would wake me up in the morning to practice my violin while she did her exercise. And I just, when I became a little bit older, again, I think about eighth grade, I had three sisters, and my mom would wake us up in the morning. Not all of us all at the same time. It was just kind of like when the next one like got of age to wake us up. I don't know really what that age was, or just when we didn't have things going on. She would wake us up and we would run 5 miles at 5:30 in the morning before school. And I do remember wanting to. It was never forced. I had the option. There were a few times if I was studying late or had other things going on that day, I would just say, "Oh, I'm too tired," and Certainly was never forced. It was my choice. And I'm assuming I wanted to, I was a girl and my appearance mattered to me. And so I also cheered in high school. So I would sometimes work with my mom before school, but it was never an obsessive thing. I also never heard my mom say that she exercises because she wanted to lose weight. Never, ever, ever. My mom always never talked about needing to lose weight. So I had a very healthy relationship with exercise. And then at 16, I remember I went to a cousin's aerobics class and I was like, you know what? This is kind of fun. I think I want to teach. So I became certified to teach aerobics. I actually taught while still in high school. And then when it became time to go to college and I was looking for something to major in, I thought, well, I'm not good or interested in history. I am now. But I wasn't then, and I math was always a struggle. Ironically, I actually talk about math when it comes to health and fitness. And English wasn't a strength of mine, and spelling and all that, or an interest. And so I thought, well, I'm interested in the body. And so I made the decision to major in fitness. And so I got my 4-year bachelor's degree in fitness and wellness management. And then when I started teaching aerobics, I was like, you know what? I want to certify in everything. So I did. I certified in kickboxing, Pilates, yoga, personal training, spinning, and step aerobics, hip hop. I remember when Zumba came out, and I was super excited to certify for Zumba. And that's when I was like, I knew I didn't love Zumba. But anyway, so my background and history is I've always been active, and exercise has always been a really important part of my life. However, when I got married and I used to just, it was a little bit easier for me. I thought, okay, this is a different beast. This is a different scenario of like fitting exercise into my lifestyle. We had moved away from home and I got a job at Red Mountain Resort and actually was teaching like 20 classes a week there. And I taught at the gym and my husband was involved in sports, but exercise wasn't as fun for him. And I was like, well, I need someone to exercise with. So I had him start coming with me, and he hated it to begin with. In fact, he later told me, he's like, remember we used to go to the gym when we were first married? You would go teach a class, and I would like go find the TV or something and find the couch or the or the waiting room. And I mean, he said he did exercise a little bit, but it was something for him that wasn't something he grew up with. As far as, I mean, his mom would go walking in the mornings, but exercise other than sports wasn't something that he grew up with as much. So it was a little bit different to try and say, okay, how is this going to work? And as the years went on, Cam actually became more fit than I was, and I was trying to keep up with him. He ended up running a couple marathons, but at the same time, he was never, I don't know if the right word is obsessive with exercise, but it just became something we both did. And we've done it for years. Our kids have done it with this. It's been part of our lifestyle, but it's never gotten easy. And I look at a lot of different people in the fitness industry who just love working out. And I think that's amazing and great. It's never been something that um, I mean, I did enjoy. I loved step and I loved some of the classes that I taught, but it was always something that was, you know, maybe a little bit harder. Running never got easy for me, and having kids was another challenge. And starting a business was a huge challenge. And I thought, okay, how do I continue making exercise part of our lifestyle? And it was really just a non negotiable. Now, There's a lot of study about habit and making it routine. I know everybody can relate to brushing our teeth. If we go to bed without brushing our teeth, it's like, oh, I don't feel good, and you just want to brush your teeth before you go to bed. So it's habit. It's something that we do, and we may be too tired at night and not want to brush our teeth, but it's non-negotiable. So that to me has kind of been exercise for me, and looking at over the years, I'm like, that's the one thing that really has gotten me through having kids and starting a business and my own personal journey. Exercise has really been um, one of the foundational things in my life. There have been other things that are foundational in my life, but fitness has always been really instrumental in helping me cope, helping me get through some of the challenges. So I'm a very, very big advocate of exercise, but I also want to tread very lightly because it is not necessarily something that everybody has grown up doing. And the industry has really, I don't want to say tainted, but almost tainted exercise for a lot of people, that it's not part of their lifestyle. And a lot of it really is, again, I mentioned it's hard, it's not easy. And usually the things that are hard for us are harder to do, or that are good for us are harder to do. It also, is tricky to fit into. But I wonder if exercise wasn't one of those things that we should do, or that was good for us, if we would do it naturally, um, because it does help us feel so good. And usually, those things that do help us feel great, we want to do, but because of the industry, I believe we fight it a little bit more. So, I want to try and help us rethink exercise as not something that we should do, but something that we want to do. And if it's something that we want to do, it's going to be a lot easier. Now, I'm going to be the first person to say, for me personally, I still battle with it every single morning. And I laugh when I talk to guests about this. I'm like, I've been doing it for years. It's part of my who I am. And I still battle with it and I still struggle. So I want people to know that instead of having this expectation of that it'll ever just be easy, um, for me, it's not yet. I know it's easier for a lot of people, because I have been doing it for so long, but maybe not to have that expectation that it's ever just going to be like some of these other maybe people in the fitness industry make it appear to be, as like, oh, I just love it and it's so fun, and it's amazing. Again, it is, but I think that that sometimes keeps us like, oh, that's not for me. Like maybe reading. In fact, I have a really cute friend that loves to read and doesn't love to do physical activity. And I am not a big reader. And I said, okay, well, because she was like, well, physical activity is just not for me. And I said, well, okay, you love reading. What if I just said, well, reading is just not for me? And she's like, well, no, reading's for everybody. I'm like, okay. And it's just because it's not something that we do a lot. So I, I, I will share a lot of different things, because when we make physical activity work for us, it's going to be a lot easier to do. So, creating a sustainable exercise routine. I love the quote that the only bad workout is the one that didn't happen. And if you've been to the resort, or if you've heard me talk over the years, man, I am so shocked at the power of movement. And I always share that if we are waiting until we're motivated to move, for me, I would probably never move. Now, some people might, but it takes me 10, 15, 20 minutes to even feel like it. So I love when guests come to the resort, they get to experience what this feels like. And I'm sure most of you probably have. I love using the example of cleaning my house or cleaning just in general. I'm sure most people can relate to the fact of like, oh, I just don't feel like it, or just the phrase of, oh, I'm in a groove. That literally is movement. We it doesn't happen until like we start cleaning or we start moving, and then we get in a groove. It's the starting and it's that initial battle that we want to try and overcome and get into the groove. And it's the exact same for me, and I'm pretty sure for a lot of people. I've worked with thousands of individuals over the years, and most of the time we don't wake up super excited. And here's the thing: if you've been to the resort, the hike in the morning's one thing. So getting up in the morning for some is a little bit harder, especially the 6:30 summer schedule that we have. We leave right at 6:30, and it's not always the easiest to wake up, but 100% of the time I love when guests come back and it's like, "Oh my gosh, that was so amazing. That felt so good." You've heard me say, and if you haven't, you'll hear me say a lot of the times that the end is my favorite. I love the ending. Not just because it's over, but it just feels so good when it is done and when you're finished. There's such an accomplishment. Your body feels good. Your mind is clear. I love the ending. And that's the one thing that actually does get me out the door is I know I've done it for so many years that I know I'm going to feel so much better when it's over and when I do it. Like 1,000% better. It's crazy. To me, sometimes you would think that I would not be shocked, but I really am so many times shocked at how much I could be struggling before and how drastically different I feel after. So it's really shocking to me. Um, and how many people don't get to have that benefit. So let's talk a little bit about the how to create a sustainable routine. There's a very common, highly used acronym of the FIT module. It's the frequency, intensity, time, and type of exercise. And at the end of the day, I want to just say, don't overthink it because there are so many opinions, so many different things. Like, you should do X amount of time. You should do type of exercise. You should do da 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 da. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's just equally like nutrition. There are so many opinions on what works for somebody. And this is where we want to be careful. And one of the things that I actually struggle with even talking about, you know, what type of exercise to do or sharing what I do because it can be so toxic if we compare, and comparison really is the thief of all joy and success because now it can help. I think we can learn from others, and I'm happy to share if people ask like, hey, this is what works for me. But just like nutrition, and it's not a bad thing. Usually when we find something that we love, we want to share it with others. So that's really I know the intentions of a lot of people who do share what they eat and what they do for exercise is pure. They want to share. They found something they love. And you just want to be very cautious and careful about like, okay, that's great that they do that. I'm going to try it, see if I like it, and maybe stick with it for a while. And that's the thing. Um, Sometimes we want to be really careful about just trying things once. We all know, like children when they're little and they don't necessarily love broccoli, and they don't love, different types of foods, but our taste buds change and they mature. And the more we have something, the more we like it. I know most people can relate to there's things that I didn't like when I was little, but I like now. Um, I've personally jogged most of my life. I want to be really careful saying jogged because it's like fast walk, slow jog. I'm not a fast runner, but that's what I grew up doing. It doesn't come really easy for me. And I do remember, I specifically remember for years getting side aches and literally years struggling and my knees hurting and different things hurting and even now I have different hip issues or other things that kind of come and go, and it's very easy, and a lot of times when I go with somebody for the first time or they're new, they're like, "Oh my gosh, this hurts or that hurts or I can't breathe or my legs." It's very, very, very normal for something to not be easy the first time we do it. So, throwing it out the window after, maybe even a few months is okay, but sticking with something that may be a little bit challenging. But I'm also a big fan of finding the things that you enjoy. So my husband is a really great example. He has one of those rebel personalities that if he's told he has to do something, he doesn't want to, which is most people, but there are some that are a little bit stronger. There's some people who are motivated by others and they love to just go with the crowd. Others, for me, I like to know the why behind something. I'm a questioner. I like to and once I understand the why, then I'm totally bought in. But for my husband, again, for example, if it's his idea, it has to be his idea. And he's definitely come a long way since we first got married when it comes to exercise. But we've learned, I jokingly say some of our best arguments have been exercising during exercise, because for me, I'm like, well, let's go together. Let's do this together. And I love to push other people and I like to motivate other people. And he doesn't necessarily love that. So I have found I do better and he does better if he can go ahead of me and I can go my own pace. And he actually loves the treadmill and I prefer to be outside. And so it is very important for us to find the things that we like the most. One of the steps on here, or tips for building a sustainable routine, is to find activities that you love. And I want to be really careful when I say that because I actually preface it. I actually suggest doing things that you dislike the least, even. You might not, for me personally, I still have not found something that I love, love, love. We have a lot of hiking guides that love hiking and they hike on their days off. And I think that's amazing. And I'm a little jealous of those who have something that they love. There's a lot of people that just love dance and it's not exercise to them. They love biking or we get a lot of guests that love swimming and I'm super jealous of that. I think it's amazing when you do have something that you actually love doing that it doesn't feel like exercise, for sure do that. But I also want to cautious those that are like myself that don't necessarily have something that they love. I used to do a lot of group exercise and I'm not a big fan of it anymore. And I think I kind of used to love that. But I don't necessarily anymore. And there are a lot of people who do. And I say, well, then do those things because it is easier to do something that you don't totally hate. Now, again, you want to be careful because it takes a long time to actually work through some of the struggles of it. So, like yoga, for example, the first time um, for most people is going to be very, very challenging and they probably won't love it. So just know that it doesn't need to be an immediate love. It might grow and you'll get better at things, but at the end of the day, there's nothing that I've taught everything and I've done everything and I've exercised for years that I just really love. That's so fun. I can't wait to do. There's a huge craze with the pickleball right now, and I think that's amazing. And if that's something you do love, do those. Yes, for sure, do those things. But at the end of the day, don't wait around for something that you love. For me, I have, just the non negotiable of some movement because I'll tell you, for me, the power of even just the emotional, mental clarity and benefits is worth the effort. So that is something, do the activities that you enjoy the most, maybe you don't hate, that you're willing to do. I guess that's actually the thing I love to say. Do the thing that you're willing to do. Um, and you can say, okay, well, here are my options, and there are hundreds. There are hundreds of options of movement. I honestly even think like a good, hard, deep clean of your house a couple times a week is definitely movement. I'm talking like scrubbing floors and walls and moving quickly, and a lot of that's a very, very healthy thing. Gardening and being active in your yard is a very great option a couple days a week. Getting some cardio, walking to me is so powerful, and all of us can do it. We don't need any equipment. We can get out our door and just go for a walk. Some of us may have better scenery than others, but it doesn't matter. And you could walk in the mall. You could walk if it's cold outside. So there are, my husband used to say, a lot of excuses, and excuses are like armholes or armholes. What do you not? Armpits. But and we all have them and they stink, but there's still excuses. So we all are going to have excuses. We're going to have pain. We're going to have time and restraints. We're going to have a million excuses every single day. And we just want to get good at making it a non negotiable and not giving into the excuses. And here's the other thing, the expectation of what it needs to be and look like and the time duration. We have got to overcome, because if we have the expectation that it needs to be 60 minutes and we don't have 60 minutes, it's going to be that all or nothing mentality, or it needs to be crazy intense, you're going to probably not do it at all. And so the expectation for me is a minimum of 20 minutes. I don't have the, I personally don't love watches that tell me how fast I'm going and the distance I'm going, and my heart rate. My husband loves his. And so personalities are so different. And if that's something that you love, use it. But if it's something that causes anxiety and stress and it doesn't help, don't use it, because it doesn't matter. You've all heard the quote that consistency is better, is the most important thing, the thing that you're going to be able to be consistent at. Consistency is greater than intensity ultimately in the long run. Is the small and simple things over time is what's going to make the biggest difference. So it's really key with consistency and building a sustainable exercise routine. Every workout, no matter how small, brings you one step closer to your goals. um, so the fit module of the frequency, a minimum of 150 minutes a week is really what we need in order to have the health benefits that can vastly improve our overall wellness, and decrease heart disease, decrease diabetes, decrease anxiety, depression. 150 minutes a week, that's not that much. Every single one of us can find 150 minutes in, and that could be 2 days a week. That could be 20 minutes every day. It can be broken up. It doesn't have to be all like, it can be 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, but an accumulation of 150 minutes of, get your heart rate up. And that's going to give you the benefits. Now, one of the things I will say at the end of the day, every one of us can do more than we think. We are really our own limitations. I do believe that 90% of it is mental. I myself included, it's very easy for me to be like, oh, I'm sore, I'm tired. I need to take it easy. I need to rest. It's very easy to hold ourselves back. And 100% of the time when guests come to the resort, they're reminded that, holy cow, I can do more than I thought I could do. We can always push a little bit harder. So, having said that, now we don't I don't want that to keep people from doing anything because again, something's better than nothing. So first and foremost, just do something and get into the routine of just daily activity. So for me, um for example, yesterday I thought I didn't have a very much time. I was like, you know what? I only have 20 minutes. I didn't have really an expectation, but I started and was like, you know what? I'm going to go a little faster today. I feel fine. I'm going to push myself. It's not very long. I actually ended up going longer than I was going to go. And that's probably what happens most of the time for me is I just have the expectation of getting out there. I don't have the expectation of I've got to go this hard or do this time. And I after about the 20 minutes of getting warmed up, I'm like some of the times I feel a little bit stronger. I have a good song that comes on and I push myself a little bit more. So I've coached thousands of individuals. And so even for myself, I have to coach myself and say, like, okay, maybe go from this point to this point and try and walk a little bit faster, maybe jog a little bit. This is one of the things that I've worked with a lot of individuals of these mental blocks. We did for several years a 5K at the resort, and I can't tell you how many times I had individuals say, "Oh, I can't do a 5K." And it's so interesting because just the day before they did more than the 5K distance, and but in their head the 5K race was not something that was doable. And it was really fun to see individuals like, oh, wow, I can do this. That's not this, I don't have to run it. I'm not racing anybody. And, shocked that they actually completed a 5K. And then working with individuals, I would be on the 5K and I say, well, like, hey, how are you feeling? And they're like, oh, I'm fine. And, I could hear them breathing fine. They were talking okay. And I was like, well, let's just jog. And they're like, oh, I don't jog. I'm like, well, let's just go from this tree to that tree. Like, what would happen if you were getting robbed or there was something you had to run from? We all need to be able to move a little bit faster. So, I would say, let's just jog from here to here. And we would get to that point, and I'm like, can we keep going? And they would be like, oh, wow, I can. So, oftentimes people are shocked and like, wow, I can do a lot more than I thought I could do. So, those are some of the things that we want to try and be open to of like, hey, maybe I can go a little bit further. One of my favorite, ways to just kind of explain our bodies and our set points and our plateaus. If we're doing like a mile every day, that's going to at some point get I again not easy, but your body's going to adapt. And so the best way for that mile to get easier is to do 2 miles or 3 miles. Then that mile is going to feel a lot easier. There are so many different things when it comes to exercise, and we'll talk a little bit more about it throughout the month. But increasing our speed and then also strengthening our heart and our lungs. I love to share that our heart is a muscle just like our biceps. And in order to get stronger biceps, we need to do resistance training. Well, there's a lot of benefit to doing resistance training for our heart, and that is intensity. So, short intervals are very, very beneficial, and also duration and longer, slower workouts are also very, very beneficial. So, doing a combination, a variety of different exercises, our bodies are very smart and they adapt and they get used to doing a certain amount of activity. So, it is nice to switch it up. We are creatures of habit, and for me, I have my routine, and I know that I could probably increase and improve a lot by doing a lot of other things, but I also am like doing the best that I can. And um so you want to be really careful of not overwhelming and then making yourself feel like, "Oh, I should be doing more and I should do these other things." And maybe one day I will and can. And I right now it's what I can do. And so it's really important to find activities that you can do, have realistic goals. Also, to prioritize recovery is important. There are days where, my body is more tired. This morning, I actually ended up walking most of my jog or route most of my route because I was feeling a little bit more sore and tired, and my body wasn't able to push as much as I was able to yesterday. We're going to talk a little bit more next week about the importance of sleep and rest and recovery, really to prevent burnout, because that's a real struggle. I have like a daily burnout that I go into, but I wanted to just end this week's discussion with the journal prompts. I think it's really important in creating that sustainable routine to put pen to paper and make a list. The first thing is to write down the types of physical activities that you do find most enjoyable, whether it be walking, biking, hiking, indoor, outdoor, group exercise, or individual exercise. Sports is a really fun thing as well. My oldest son, he plays basketball in the mornings because it's fun to him and not exercise, but he's getting the physical benefits as well. So it could be group exercise or sports, it could be individual sports. And then I want you, the second thing is to ask, how can you incorporate these enjoyable activities into your daily routine? And think about your schedule and available time slots, because this is the tricky part. Especially if this hasn't been a habit of yours. For me, it's I it's habit. I've been doing it for years, and it's hard for me to take a shower until I've exercised. So I sometimes it has to be earlier if I have to shower earlier, and if I have a little bit more time, it can be a little bit later. Kids have definitely been a little bit trickier. Years ago, I used to take my kids to the daycare at the gym and I would do classes. That was just what I could do at the time. We've gone through probably 4 or 5 jog strollers over the years with our kids. To me, I would prefer to take my kids with me. That's me though, because if I also think it's great to have your time and not take your kids because it's hard and it's not as enjoyable. But I like taking them with me. So they've ridden their bikes a lot, the strollers. Um, Reflect on your past experiences with regular exercise. What were some of the barriers that prevented you from maintaining a consistent routine? Physical, logistical, motivational, or emotional barriers. Everybody's different differently motivated. Some people are a list maker and they do it because you just put it on your calendar, and they're those um uh again, just those check marks of doing the exercise. Others really thrive on working out with other people, or like the classes. For me, I mentioned that I need to know the why behind something. And then those like my husband, it's like they want to do what they want to do, and that's okay. That's great, but do something. Um, so again, discussing those barriers, how can you address each one of those? So if it's pain, if it's physical things, there can be, in fact, I just had a friend who said, her husband's feet were just bothering him. And he went to podiatrist, got some new shoes. I do and will say that if it's not one thing, it's going to be something else. So if we wait till there aren't any issues, we probably won't ever do anything. I'm literally. So this is another thing that I really do like is to consider how you're going to measure your progress. I love, in fact, when we have guests that come, if you know me, you know I love our stop sign option that we do at the resort. I also love a lot of guests love West Canyon. And I love one of the things I love about it is you can see progression. And I encourage and challenge guests and like just try first of all to get to the top. And that's your first goal. And then start timing yourself and see how fast you can get to the top. And then maybe add some distance and start coming down a little bit in that same amount of time so that you can see improvement, because sometimes this scale can be really frustrating if we're just basing all of our success off of the scale. I also think it's great. I don't do a ton of this. I've done a little bit over the years, but there's a lot of people who, with strength training, having a routine and having a program, and having measuring your improvement on, how much weight are you able to lift and how much time and how many reps. And even just push-ups or sit-ups, trying to perform one with great form can be your first goal. Maybe it's one, and maybe it's against a wall or on your knees, and then the goal is to maybe do one on your toes. So having how you're going to measure your progress, and your endurance levels. I love to, even so, the 5K, back to that, I think that's such a great thing to do, and have an actual, like, 5K route. And for an entire year, I used to time myself every once a week on my 5K time. And that was a hard year. And I remember starting to kind of, it was tough, but I saw improvement as I did track my time each week. Again, how can you make exercise routine more enjoyable, more rewarding? I'm a big fan of, make sure your um, shoes are comfortable. Buy a brand new pair of shoes. It's worth the investment, and get a cute outfit that you're excited to wear. Now, that motivation will wear off fast. It only lasts a couple times. But if you enjoy putting on, if you hate how you feel in the clothes that you have, get some new clothes, get something that's going to get you excited to get out. Buy a new, if it is a watch or a heart rate monitor, or new shoes, and just, reward yourself and make it a little bit more enjoyable. Um, what type of support system? So this is a huge one that's been a big part of my life. My mom was my support system growing up. Cam didn't have a choice when we got married. He became my support system. It was a little rocky at first with the exercise, but just this morning he was like, "Hey, let's get up, let's go early." And I was like, "Okay, I don't want to, but I'm going to do it." And I'm so grateful for that. And to have a type of support. Now, we don't do everything always together. And sometimes it's like, "Okay, let's just get up," and he does the treadmill and I go outside. So it can be different, but and it doesn't have to be a spouse. It can be a friend that you call. For years, we used to meet a group of moms, and we would meet with our strollers. And I knew, or I would go because I knew they were meeting me there. Or we would go to the park and we would do a workout. So having a support system is huge. Our Movara Home online program is a really great resource for a support system, where we meet weekly, daily. We have accountability for that as well. That's going to help you stay motivated and committed to your exercise routine. So, over the years, the support system has been big for me. A lot of people think that I'm motivating them, but really, they're motivating me to get out there. Because, if unfortunately, if nobody knew, I mean, I've done it for long enough, I would probably go, but it'd be easy to not go. It'd be very, very easy. And a lot of times we do that on purpose because we don't want to, feel bad if we do cancel on somebody. So, get that support system and know that it's there to help and benefit you. And lastly, how might you adapt your exercise routine as your fitness level improves to keep challenging yourself and continue making progress? So, our bodies do adapt and they get comfortable. Now, again, consistency. I've known a lot of individuals who have done the same thing for years, and they've maintained, and they are very fit and they are very healthy. But if we want to continue improving, there are a lot of options, and we'll talk more about that throughout the month on increasing and improving our fitness. But at the end of the day, it is the most valuable, most effective, cheapest medicine out there for our overall health and wellness, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. When our bodies move, our minds can move. And I hope that you take advantage of it, and not allow the fact that the industry really has tainted it. And that's really a self-sabotage tool. It's like, well, we can find all the other reasons of justifying why we don't do it, really, it's important. It's going to improve your overall, um, not just your health and your well being, but your overall joy and happiness in life. So I hope that you take advantage of something, and I hope that this was helpful. I'm grateful for the role that exercise has played in my life over the years. It's been foundational. It has really gotten me through a lot of hard, difficult times, and it's powerful. It's important to do. So, um, again, there's a lot of things and opinions out there. Don't overthink it. Just do something that's going to challenge, move your body, stretch your body. That's one of the things, and we'll talk more about that later. But stretching, that's one of the things that guests come to the resort and like, wow, I need to do a lot more of. And it is absolutely true. Our bodies get stiff, they get tired, especially with all the sitting that we do. So we need to stretch, we need to move, but we want to. We don't just need to, we want to, and we will do it be when we want to. So next week we're going to talk a little bit more about the power of sleep for fitness success, the importance of it in our not just in our life, but how it affects our exercise. So join us next week.